Welcome to Fair Game. I'm Kristine Leahy. Today is part 2 of my interview with 5-time NBA champion Derek Fisher. Yesterday we talked about Derek's playing career. Today we'll talk about his time coaching the Knicks and a whole lot more. So Derek, after the 2013-2014 season, you go directly from being a player to the head coach of the New York Knicks. Phil Jackson brings you in. You guys are reunited. What did you feel going into that?
I mean, excited. Like I'm one of those guys that's like, okay, we have an assignment or an objective or a goal. Okay, cool. As insurmountable as it may seem, as impossible as it might seem to be at the beginning, like I'm game. Let's go. Like we can win this game. You know, we may be a team that's only supposed to win 40 games, but we can win the championship this year. Like that's the way I think. So I was going into it excited, you know, still, of course, anxious and not sure of like how this transition is going to go. And I found out quickly that it's not the same playing the game as then trying to help someone else play the game. Those are two different things. And it was a tough transition, more so the relationships with the players that I immediately had to kind of, what I thought at least, disconnect from. You know, you can't be the guy again, you know, hanging out in the locker room after practice. You know, you're not sitting with guys on the bus, on the plane, telling funny stories, laughing, joking about certain things. So I thought that you had to distance yourself as a coach from the players so that there was this line and this boundary that they understood, like you're the coach now.
Did they want you to kind of be their buddy still?
I don't think it was that they wanted me to be their buddies, but players do want relationship. We all want to have relationship with people that are important to us.
Right.
And I do think that was one of the early mistakes that I made was, especially from my years of experience as a player, like Phil wasn't in relationship with us personally. Sure. He was the coach. Jerry Sloan wasn't my friend. He was my coach. So coaches that I played for, high school, college, pros, there wasn't like a personal relationship. They're the coach, I'm the player, I do what he says. And the league had shifted to where, which I learned in Oklahoma City as a player, was that players needed a connection with this leader, with their coach, so that it felt more like a partnership as opposed to boss, you know, subordinate, you know, employer, employee. That's not the way guys need to feel. And I struggled with that early because coming from my years of experience, as well as the fact that coming straight from playing, I felt like I had to like make this hard, like I'm a coach now, so, you know, I can't laugh with you the same like I used to Carmelo or Tim Hardaway or Iman Shumpert. Like I kind of have to distance myself, and that made it a harder transition because guys needed to understand me and who I am so that they could connect to me as a man and as a person, which would then allow us to connect as people, which is bigger than basketball, which allows guys to go out and, I think, perform better.
I mean, that's a really hard transition to just expect someone to be able to know exactly what to do, going from player to coach right away. And then it's also hard. Phil Jackson's not the easiest guy to work for. You got to operate his triangle offense. And I read somewhere, I think it was you who said it, that you had faith in Phil to take this job, but maybe Phil didn't have the faith that he needed to in you. Not that it was your fault, but that he didn't just let you do what you needed. Yeah,
I mean, I think that on some level, you know, look, in professional sports, the coach takes responsibility. That's where everything stops. Coaches get hired and fired all the time. So it's not a personal, like, I'm the only one that this has happened to. Tyronn Lue just got fired. Been to the championship 4 times,
everyone gets
and won the championship. Coaches get fired. So it's just more of an honest reflection on the reality of the fact that, one, I wasn't smart enough to ask the right questions going into taking and accepting the job. What are you going to expect from me? Do I have to run the triangle? If I don't want to run the triangle, is that going to be a problem for you? Those are things that I wasn't prepared to do coming straight from being a player. Steve Kerr was prepared to do that, which is part of probably why he didn't take the job in New York. Yeah. He knew how to ask those questions coming from the place of experience that he had been in Phoenix and just having maybe been out of the game a little longer than I. So I put myself in a tough position to start.
Sure.
And then from there, yes, I do believe that part of our struggle in New York was, one, feeling I didn't find a way to communicate effectively that would allow for him to understand my vision and where I saw the team and where I saw us going, but also for me to understand his concerns and what he wanted to continue to see from me or things that were important to him. And so had he said, hey, Fish, you have to run the triangle, there's no way around it. If you're not going to do that, it's going to be an issue and maybe we need to go in a different direction.
You might not have taken the job. Had you asked that question?
Correct. Those weren't conversations that we had. So our communication wasn't effective that allowed us to both go into the situation knowing this is what it's going to be. And then from there, I think that it's always hard, whether it's me, Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, R.C. Buford, if there isn't alignment in vision and clarity on what we want to do, what system we're running, which players we want to play, etc. But more importantly than that, great leaders hire great people and allow them to lead. Mm-hmm. And I thought that we struggled, which ultimately the players are the ones that get hurt. There was an issue where if I'm the head coach and Phil is the president of the team, the players have to know that I'm the coach, the leader, everything. My voice is the most important one.
Yeah.
And if there's a voice that is upstairs that is being carried more than the coach's voice, it's just going to make it hard for everyone. But that's not a Phil Jackson, Derek Fisher issue. You could argue that that's a Tyronn Lue, Cleveland Cavaliers issue, that it's a Lionel Hollins, Memphis Grizzlies issue. That, I mean, you could go on about really good coaches that have been fired for things probably other than X's and O's.
So you didn't get a fair shot.
So that's the way I feel. Mm-hmm. But like we just said, I don't know if any coach gets a fair shot. That's not what the job is. It's in some ways a thankless job, so to speak. And that's kind of what you sign up for. And so if I were to be fortunate enough to get the opportunity again, things that I've learned to do, not to do, et cetera, what to ask in an interview. I didn't interview for the Knicks job. It was through relationship between Phil and I and the trust he had in me. So I thought that we could do this together. Now I would know going into an interview process what kind of conversation we need to have, the things that they may ask of me and that I need to ask of them to make sure that we're aligned going into this if we decide to work together.
Right. I'm also interested going in when you're looking at Carmelo, what you were thinking there, because he did take a lot of the blame for what happened.
Yeah.
Do you think that's deserved?
No, I don't think any one player, one coach, one person deserves that much blame or that much credit when a team is winning or losing. But, you know, in New York, Carmelo was the franchise player. Franchise players take the brunt of the criticism. You know, if the Lakers struggle in LA, LeBron's going to take the brunt of the criticism. It comes kind of with the territory. But we made it hard for Carmelo to be successful. You know, from the things we were just discussing, if there's lack of clarity and vision and alignment and how you want to play, which players we need to be drafting, signing, developing, which players should stay, go, etc. We're making it hard for our players to be successful. You know, there were things that I could have done better in using Carmelo more effectively in terms of the things we did offensively. And those were the things I was trying to explore. You know, how do I create better things for Melo, for Porzingis, for Robin Lopez, for Jose Calderon, etc. We were doing some good things. Like we were 22-22, 2.5 weeks before I was fired.
Yeah.
You know, we were right there in the Eastern Conference playoff race. A couple injuries. Melo hurt his ankle that was lingering. Porzingis was ill, missed a game or two. Lance Thomas, who's one of those glue guys you can't miss, he had a concussion. He missed a couple games. So we had some things that were just kind of lingering around that time. We went 1-9, and Phil made the decision. One thing I can say is I don't regret it.
Oh, that's good.
Like I would say yes again, even if I didn't know what to do or what to ask. Because in life, you can't always know the answers before you take the test.
No, you got to learn.
Sometimes you just have to go in there, roll your sleeves up, and figure it out. And I thought that, to the players' credit, amongst all of this craziness with New York and the media and winning, losing, trading half of our team in the middle of my first season, winning 17 games, being asked to run an offense that they didn't want to run, that maybe we should have not been running. They were still figuring out a way to go out and play for each other and be 500, 44 games through an 82-game season. So they deserve more credit for what we were doing that year than they received, because all the discussion was about me and Phil, basically, and the offense, as opposed to our players.